Let's start with the Republicans blocking financial reform and the extension of unemployment benefits. U.S. Congressman Jack Kingston is a Georgia Republican, member of the Appropriations Committee. Mr. Kingston, thank you, sir. It's great to have you on the show. I wonder why the Republicans have decided that unemployment benefit extension is a bill that has to be pay as you go, when all the other times in the last, X many years under Democrats and Republican administrations, you've passed spending bills that you haven't paid for.
Chris, you know what? I think you're right. Both parties can share the blame on the deficit spending. The deficit, as you know, is the highest in history. But right now, this 8th extension of unemployment benefits can hardly be deemed as a surprise. We've had a failed stimulus bill. We knew this was coming. And what we Republicans in the House say is it ought to be offset. And that's what the Senate Democrats are saying. And that's why the Senate left town without extending unemployment insurance. And we're somewhat in agreement with them that it ought to be offset before we do it.
So give me an array of programs you could cut.
Well, I think the obvious choice is the pot of money in the stimulus program. Give you one example. In the broadband program, we put in the stimulus $7 billion worth of broadband extension programs, basically paying Verizon and the broadband companies to do what they were going to do with their own money. We're now paying for it with taxpayer money. But of that $7 billion, just this year, there's $1.6 billion left. That would go a long way. Doesn't come up with all the $34 billion, but that's an example. And there's all kinds of other programs in the stimulus pot of money, and that's where the Senate Democrats want to go to offset the $34 billion, and we in the House, we Republicans agree with them.
So you think, just politically, sir, and you're a veteran, you know politics, do you think that the average Republican candidate running this fall can go to the voters in suburbia, and a lot of middle management people have lost their jobs, and tell them you can't get unemployment benefits, you can't get the extended benefits because we're doing something over in broadband that we shouldn't have to do? Do you think that'll sell?
You know, Chris,
those
I think
two are unrelated issues. To most people, they're unrelated, those issues, sir.
Well, what I would say is there's a lot of stimulus money that has not decreased unemployment. And remember, stimulus was passed to keep unemployment going to 8%. We've been hovering around 10%. 6 million people are out of jobs. And what we're saying is we need to offset the cost of unemployment insurance extension. And that is the position of a bipartisan group in the Senate. And that's, you know, as you know, Senator Nelson was the one who pulled the plug on the Senate doing the extension just yesterday. And so for the House tonight in the 11th hour to say, okay, let's pass unemployment, it's a political vote. Nothing's going to happen to the bill.
Okay, so basically you're going to come on this program tonight live. Tomorrow we got an unemployment number coming out. And by the way, I agree with your sentiments if they are that we're in bad shape. I'm looking at the market. I'm looking at retail sales. I'm looking at home sales. They're terrible. The numbers don't look good. If we face a 10% unemployment rate tomorrow, are you still going to be happy with holding off those unemployment checks for another couple weeks at least? Because that's what's going to happen.
You know, I don't think we should be leaving town without addressing this. I think there's so many things that we need to do to get business and the economy turned around. You know, the financial services bill, maybe now that the dust could be settled. Now, we don't know what the Senate's going to do. But once these rules are set, then businesses could start recovering. Same thing with dumping new regulations on them and new health care mandates. If we could get the government off the back of the private sector, small businesses could start creating jobs, and I think that would turn the economy around.
Well, this economic poo storm that started back under President Bush's administration in Wall Street, the disaster up there, happened back, as we all know, in the fall of 08, and it all came about, and both parties have tried to deal with it, with Obama coming in there and joining the President George W., trying to deal with that, what looked to be a complete collapse of the American economy, and everybody supported TARP, and then the stimulus, everybody tried everything, and now the Democrats have been trying to do a reform bill, financial reform. 53% of the American people support it. Your party opposes it. Is this a secondary after unemployment extension where you guys are on the wrong side of perhaps, if not history, that's too big a statement, but on the wrong side of the newspapers right now, the way people are getting this information?
Well, Chris, as you know, the chairman of Goldman Sachs, the chairman of Citicorp have both endorsed this financial services reform bill. So I don't think Main Street America and the community bankers believe that this is really anything but big government and big Wall Street masquerading reform, saying that it's going to turn the economy around. And now I hope I'm wrong on that, Chris. I really do. I hope that this reform bill turns Wall Street around and that credit starts flowing in Main Street America. I just got to say, I have my doubts. And you and I both know that at the end of the day, on so many of these things, it gets bogged down. And before you know it, big government and big business have cut themselves a deal that they can live with, and that the prosperity doesn't trickle down to Main Street.
Well,
and that's what we want to do.
I normally agree with you. I don't like deals where business is happy in Wall Street, but I got to tell you, I wonder whether Wall Street isn't in the same situation that BP is in. BP agreed to a $20 billion set-aside, $20 billion escrow, because they were on the run. Isn't it fair to assume that Wall Street's been on the run politically and that they'll settle for the best deal they can get? This is like copping a plea, isn't it? I'm not so sure it's the way they would have won. Wouldn't they have preferred laissez-faire the way they had it?
I think they would, but now you're talking to somebody who voted against TARP. If we could rewind the tape and let some of those folks go bankrupt, I think it would have taught them a lesson that would have had a far stronger reform impact than the bailouts. Well,
President Bush was scared to death, so was a lot of people in Wall Street. I do like your sentiment. Screw the bastards. But the problem is the bastards were running the American economic system. They were running the American economic system up in New York, and they tell you we're going to hell in a handbasket, and the President of the United States, whether he's a Republican in that case or a Democrat, it's very hard to say, I don't care what you experts, you masters of the universe are telling me, I'm willing to risk the end of the American economy. Would you have said, yeah, I'm willing to risk it if you were president?
You know, I think you're darned if you do.
It's easy to be a congressman and vote no. Hey, look, it's easy to be a congressman and vote no when you know something's going to pass. The safest vote in Congress is a no vote when something passes. You know that? And like your vote on extensive unemployment benefits. It's a safe vote. You know it's going to pass.
Actually, Chris, if you'll remember, the first vote was a no vote, and the stock market dropped something like 500 points that day. So it was a scary time for all of us. Hank Paulson was running around all over the globe saying the sky is falling. So we really did not know, but I will say that there were a lot of experts who were saying, do not go this route or do something, but not this big and not this far. But here's where I think we need to help Main Street, the small bankers, the community bankers, and the small businesses, and that's how we need to rebuild the economy.
Okay, the bottom line, though, Congressman, end of conversation. The bottom line, though, is the Republicans are against financial reform. We'll see how it plays in November. But thank you so much for coming on. U.S. Congressman Jack Kingston, a veteran down there in Georgia.